Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Delighted to have your company. I'm Peter Martin, Alan Ruff and Hugh McDonald here with me on this Thursday, the day after Celtic are knocked out of the Champions League qualifiers by FC Midtjylland of Denmark. It was a night where it started so well for Celtic with a wonder goal from Callum McGregor, but of course 2 goals from Midtjylland put paid to any hopes of Celtic facing PSV Eindhoven in the next qualifying round. Ange Postecoglou reckons this one wasn't a catastrophe.
Catastrophic to me means the end. This is far from the end. And you're suggesting that this is a club falling apart and our season's finished. And I don't see it that way. Yeah, it's absolutely disappointing, and Champions League football is a priority. But as I said, I can't ask any more of the players. They gave everything they could, and we've got a league campaign starting Saturday, and our focus shifts to that, and hopefully getting off to a good start.
Well, he says it wasn't a catastrophe. Only one of us on the show yesterday predicted Midtjylland 2, Celtic 1. I'll raise my hand now and say it wasn't what I wanted at the end of the extra time, Ruffy, but that's how it panned out.
Yeah, I also said that, that even though Celtic scored, there was no definitive that would be a win, because we all know the defence is going to concede, and that's what happened. Powder puff at the back. Hugh could probably tell me how to define what did he say? Catastrophic, was it? I would say shambles. As a shambles. Celtic on the playing side are now, I think, verging on where Rangers were 8 and 9 years ago. The only difference with Celtic is they've got money to get it right, but we don't know who's using that money and what kind of stuff's going to come in. But they certainly have to do it quick. I know the manager's saying, give me a month. That's okay in football in terms, but horses bolted as far as I'm concerned. Celtic 3 or 4 years ago were a Champions League side. They're nowhere near that now. Yeah,
the irony is not lost in a lot of Celtic fans. I mean, Ange Postecoglou, I think, as you mentioned, might have got a free hit. You mentioned it, last week, Hugh. So it's not the team that he wants to play. But if anything, he's been let down yet again by what I call Groundhog Day. Which is year in, year out for the last 10 years, when Rangers were on their knees all the way through, there's been this complacency of rolling the dice to say, let's see if this team that they've got at the moment can get them there, and then we might think about spending money.
Yep, and it's been distinctly unsuccessful 6 out of 9 times. It's been appalling. I mean that. Without going into the catastrophic mode, I think this is the worst for me. I mean, I talked to Rasmus Ankerson, who's the chairman of Midtjylland. He's also the director of football at Brentford. And he was telling me, he said, no, this is a poor Midtjylland team. He thinks Celtic will win comfortably. I mean, he went on record on that, put it in the newspaper. And I said to him, have you watched Celtic? You know what's happening at Celtic? Oh, Celtic are far too big a club for it. We've got a team of what he called, in that nice word, in transition. So I think it's. I mean, it's very easy to fall into hyperbole, big words, etc. But looking at that last night, Peter, you looked at that team and you said, for a Celtic first team, Ruffy, how many would you keep in there as a Celtic first? I'm not talking about squad players. I'm talking about if you're going up against, for a Rangers game, how many guys would you hang your hat on in that team? I don't think you get beyond 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, Ruffy, I did mention to you yesterday, the words that I used were, this was the out of all the seasons I've watched them make a complete hash of it, this was the one Celtic side where I felt as if the board had left the manager so exposed by what he was putting out in the back line.
Yeah, but it's been a build-up for the start of the year, obviously, with Lenny leaving and then them putting their hat on Eddie Howe. I think the Eddie Howe thing went on far too long.
Absolutely.
I don't know what was happening behind the scenes and what the negotiations were, and was he saying, oh, hang on, I'm definitely coming? But it went pear-shaped, and Eddie Howe's got a lot to do with it, although he's not at the club. But and then obviously the CEO leaving, and he couldn't come into July. It's just a mess. It's just an absolute mess. And you're right, Hugh's right. That back four, and not take me out of the equation, that back four would never get anywhere near a Champions League Celtic defence.
And
Not one of them would get in that side.
Well, you tried to defend possibly the goalkeeper being a saving grace. He's gone.
No, he's gone.
He's
there's
not
no
even
way
picked
back.
last night, so he's gone.
There's no way back for him. I think something has to be done. Obviously, we know he comes from Greece. I'm sure there'll be teams in Greece will take him. It's a big hit again. I don't know, it's a loss about 3 million, 4 million. They have to take the hit. There's no way back for that goalkeeper now. And they have to move on. And the boy Main is a steady goalkeeper, but he's not a number one. You know, so that has to be rectified right away. And we keep harping back. The Craig Gordon situation, I'd love to know what the discussions were there and what Craig was wanting and why he moved on, because he'd have been a safe pair of hands.
Yeah, to the game. Now, this is going to sound really almost contradictory, Hugh. I thought McGrillen were average at best.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Right? But Celtic had periods where they were dominating the game, but couldn't score. You know, you've got Edouard. Last year I suggested at the start of the season he was a man down. Celtic fans, boom, out with the baseball bat, going mental at me. I think he was a man down, not interested. Ryan Christie, is he going to be there? Is it sensible for them to keep him in the last year of a deal or the last 6 months? So you've suddenly got that. You've got the midfield, which has got McGregor. I like McGregor.
He's top class.
The Aboya Bada, you can't criticise him. Sorrow, I don't think is good enough. And then you're looking, you're saying to yourself, the back five and the goalkeeper, all of that against a Michelin side that I still thought they could have beaten them last night.
Yeah, well, it could have been I mean, if Forrest scores, that's 2-0. The best one in the world, I don't think there's any way back for the Danes at 2-0. I don't think they're coming back.
No.
And I think Celtic then would relax, get a bit of confidence. And again, in this team as well, which you forget, and you know how much it matters in football, it's a team completely, utterly shorn of confidence.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this was because that result last night wouldn't have got them in the Champions League anyway. PSV is going to hump whoever, got through.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it got them into the Europa League. But it would have given them a bit of confidence, going forward. But I thought, the only reason, Angie's watching the same game as us, right?
Yes.
And presumably, and not presumably, he knows much more about football than us. He's got his coaching badges and that. So he's looking at Edouard. The only reason he's keeping Edouard on the park is that he's got nothing on the bench.
Yeah.
And he's wanting to say to the board, this is what I've got.
Yeah.
Because I thought that Edouard performance was almost a vintage quality, because over the years, down the years, I've watched players who have given up the ghost, their heads elsewhere. But I don't know if I've ever quite seen a performance like that what Edouard put in last night.
Yeah. But before I get to you, Ruffy, on this, I want to talk to you about this. Now, I'm going to read out a few messages as well on our YouTube channel. We're exclusively live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel over the course of the season. I know some people would like us to go back to Facebook, but this is where we are, and hopefully you're going to stick with us and join us and subscribe to the channel. The key issue here is Ange is absolved for the moment of any real criticism. I'm going to cut Dominic Mackay some slack, although Celtic fans have been saying he should have been doing a lot more. Who's to blame? And I think the board and the strategy over a decade, Hugh. If you look, 10 years ago, this very week, Rangers were playing Malmo. They lost that game against Malmo 1-0. They then proceeded to go into liquidation over the course of the season 2011-2012. Now, 10 years on, with very little competition on the way, they've continually rolled this dice in a similar fashion year in, year out. We're 10 years on now. Rangers, ironically, are playing Malmo again. They're looking to get into the Champions League group stages. And Celtic, who had the chance to actually go over the sunset, disappear over the horizon with a financial amount of money that Rangers would have struggled to catch them. Now Rangers are the champions. Now Rangers are past them. And Celtic are trying to play catch-up.
Yep.
For me, that's the board, that's the strategy. And the last man out the door was the man who left Dominic Mackay and Ange Postecoglou with this mess.
Yeah, and another thing as well is that when money was spent, Peter, it was spent really poorly.
Yeah.
Last season they put, what's forgotten last season, they spent 20 million last season and won in the 10. People forget that, It wasn't a lack of investment that didn't get a 10. It was a lack of strategy and recruitment. They bought really badly. They bought, You know, they bought players that, I mean, Barkas, for example, Ayeti, I mean, Klamala. I mean, there was millions upon millions squandered on this. I mean, the last time Celtic were in a position where you could actually say, this is a steady shipment's going there, was when John Parr was there.
Yeah.
And you were saying, like, you know, he seems to be getting a bit of money, and when he gets the money, he's sourcing good players. I mean, he's sourcing your Van Dijks, he's sourcing, I mean, we know Lenny got that over the line, but he's sourcing even the Deniers, and I mean, the players that now, that at the time people were slaughtering in the Celtic defence, like Denier. I mean, you'd have them back in 2 seconds now.
On the flip side of it, I mean, some people are saying, why have I brought up 2012? I'll tell you why I brought up 2012. Because it's relevant to the 10 years. That's why Matt Gunnar on YouTube, the reason we brought it up is because Rangers were on their knees, Celtic had the chance to disappear, and I'm highlighting the fact that quite simply it's mismanagement on Celtic's part. Rangers just clawed their way back, biding their time, and then the ultimate for Rangers was stop the 10 and then move on. And that strategy and that loyalty has paid off.
Yeah, and it was a huge risk for Rangers as well. I mean, Rangers went all in. I mean, what we're talking about, 70, 90 million of losses over the last 10 years that have been picked up by directors and soft loans. Really, and they've went all in. I mean, they're now in a situation, funnily enough, of retrenchment, you know, because they'll have to look down at it and say, right, what is our business plan? Yeah. Business plan just can't be to throw money at it. The business plan now is, right, we'll have to have some player sales and things like that. But they went, that was their strategy. I thought it was a hugely, and I still think it's a hugely risky strategy, but it paid off for them, Peter.
Yeah, listen, if they get to if Rangers get to the Champions League, Roffy, you know, the strategy, and you look at the last couple of seasons, Rangers have been playing really well in European football. They get to the Champions League, the riches now are 30 to 40 million. So suddenly, you're able to peg that back.
Yeah, Steven Gerrard has worked his fantastic. You know, his whole policy, if he went in there, we knew the quality of players he was bringing in weren't good enough, but year on year that quality got better, and they banked in all the money that they were borrowing, they banked on getting into Europe.
Absolutely.
So the philosophy of that this is where we are to recoup everything we've laid out has come up trumps, and you have to give them a pat back in that, because now on the park they've got players worth money. 2 or 3 years ago they'd hee-haw on the park that you could sell, but that's changed now. I would think on the park now the players will be worth possible. All right, there's a couple at Celtic, Edward, and a couple are large sums of money, but in the nucleus of the Rangers squad now, you could get over millions for most of them.
Yeah.
You know, so that's them in a good place, and now they're recouping that European money. So for me, the manager's been absolutely incredible.
Yeah, but recouping the money, Hugh, is, you know, I think that's the key issue that Rangers will be looking at, the riches that are on offer. You have Celtic now with a disgruntled support. They're talking about getting fans back into the ground. This is in a situation where, yet again, they're looking, and they've been quite vocal and visual with their complaints outside Celtic Park again. I don't think it's a sack the board. What I think Dermot Desmond will be looking at, and he hates losing, I think he'll be looking at, is it now time to restructure the board? Because I think this strategy and this ethos they have is flawed. Certain aspects of it are flawed. You can't, if you were looking at them as a financial institution, absolutely brilliant. They've all got their bonuses, they've all made profits over the years, but the fans are frustrated. They've not said to them, spend millions. What they've said to them is, spend it at the right time. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think the fans have actually been really, really sensible and patient, apart from a couple of incidents we know about after. I mean, the stuff after the Ross County game, that was just deplorable. But I mean, in the main, the fans, the debate has been informed and it's been sensible. And I agree with you. I think now is the right time for them to sit down with a new chief executive in Dominic O'Kane, saying, right, what do we want the structure of the club to look like? And what do we want the board of the club to look like? And I think there'll be a real strong emphasis from Dermot, because Dermot now has to look at it and say, well, what am I in this for? You know, what, I mean, we're the best ball in the world with the kind of sums that Dermot Desmond works with. This is a very minor player in his empire. It's a huge player in terms of, profile in media, but in terms of, the money he deals with, it's not. So he'll want to get it right, though.
Yeah.
And I understand that his son, Peter, is very, very keen on taking a role and being involved, maybe not in the board, but being involved in the direction of the club, looking at the club as a modern club going forward. What is the strategy? What do we seek to do here? Because this is the time to do it now. A complete sea change. You've got rid, there's situations has changed within the club, and this is a time now to sit down and say, what are we about, and how are we going to go there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's got a tough job, this guy, because they'll undoubtedly start in the next 2 or 3 weeks, Ruffy, going through a period of what I call the PR spin, bringing in 2 or 3 players, telling everybody they're the greatest things in sliced bread. The manager's got to get them playing, got to get them, you've got to cut him some slack. He wants them to play a certain way. I mean, Ange Postecoglou last night has mentioned the fact that, they need new signings on the way.
I still think it's I still think it's my responsibility if I'm the person that's been put in charge, and if we haven't got players in, obviously I haven't done a good enough job, convincing people we need to bring people in. So, it's still, I'm not going to shy away from that. I don't say that because I'm some kind of martyr. I just think that's my responsibility. That's why I was brought in.
So he says he hasn't done a good enough job mentioning to the board that they needed players. That to me, sometimes managers just come out with lines, and he said it's not a cop-out, but Ruffy, the board have heard it a million times. If anything, I would accuse Ange of one thing, which is he's a little bit wet behind the ears when it comes to how slick this board operates.
Yeah, I also think as well, he's never managed a team like Celtic, and he said some of the right things, but the be-all and end-all is the Champions League. To say, well, look, we have to take a step back here. If we don't get in this year, there's always next year. That's not the way Celtic supporters have been brought up with Champions League. They want in it, and they want the players on the park to be in it, and they're not getting that, and all these names that are getting thrown about just now. I mean, the Celtic supporters won't know what's going to happen in a month. It's okay saying there's a signing coming in. They won't have a clue who he is. We don't know the quality that they're coming in. It's certainly not the quality that used to come in. But you're right, the policy of for the background looking in and selling Tierney for money, selling Frimpong, that's great for the bank ballast, but supporters don't bother about bank ballasts. They want to turn up on a Saturday and see the best 11 on the park, and they're getting deprived of that.
Yeah, the other thing about it as well is, I think Peter Lawwell used it as a positive remark last year when he said three Champions League qualifications in the group stage. And I thought, can anybody do the math here? Out of the 9 years that they've won the league, that's 6 that they couldn't. And of the 6 that they couldn't, Hugh, a good 3 or 4 of them they should have. That's
what I alluded to, the 6 out of 9 earlier. It's... If you're going out in the Champions League like Celtic, qualifiers that Celtic once did years ago against Arsenal, for example, Peter, hands up. Come on, you're not going to do it. If you're going out against Ferencváros, if you're going out against Midtjylland, you've got to take a good look at yourself. You've got to say to yourself, well, wait a wee minute here. Because every manager in football, when they're down, will tell you it's all about money. They'll say, the reason we're not performing is, because the team above us has more money. It's about budgets, and I think that's a fair point of view, I really do. But it works against you. It works the same way.
Yeah.
Again, if you're playing Midtjylland last night, and that is a poor, mediocre Midtjylland team. PSV will thrash them. Yeah,
but Hugh, I mentioned in the column today on the website that Celtic should be a big club, but unfortunately they've got a board with small ambitions.
Yeah, and I think that is part of the revamp. I think there's now a sense. One of the interesting things about Celtic is they kept Peter Lawwell on board, in that he's still on the ECA, the European Clubs Association, and he's very high up in that. I think one time he was vice chairman, he might still be. And I think what Dermot Desmond will be very interesting celebrating is the fallout from the the revamp of the Champions League, the Super League.
Yeah.
Because that's coming, Peter.
Yeah.
And that changes the whole ball game then. That changes the whole ball game. If you can move out the league that you're in If you can access greater broadcasting revenues, that changes the whole ballgame. But in the short term, it's Hearts and Saturday.
Yeah.
And that, you know, that's the thing about football clubs and strategy. You can sit and talk about strategy all day, and you lose 1-0, and I mean, it's like the boxer. The boxer will always say, the greatest plan ends with the first punch.
Yeah.
You know, somebody comes out and punches you in the face and your plan goes. And it's the same with football, because you'll know this, Ruffy, as being a director. You can have every plan and every budget for your team. You lose 2-0 on a Saturday, that everything changes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, Celtic fans well used to having the pain of going out to what they would consider lesser sides. Here's a quick look back at 5 of the big blunders. Well, I'll come back to that. I haven't got it yet, but I'll sum it up. I'll sum it up for you.
We can go through them again,
Yeah.
because
Ferencváros is one of them.
that was in when we had
Braga, Legia
Legia
Warsaw,
Warsaw was a
Art
classic.
Media Bratislava.
Oh, Ant Media Bratislava. I mean, as Gordon Strachan said, he'll have it on his gravestone.
Yeah. I mean, even Lincoln Red Imps is in there.
Well, Lincoln Gibbs was Brendan
Brendan's
Rodgers' first game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's it's a litany of lament.
Yes.
You know, and again, it's all teams that you look at and you say, do you know what? They were beatable.
Yeah, I meant to say to you, you mentioned there about and we've been talking about the signing policy. We're going to move on from them because obviously we're going to hear from our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi, but let's have a look just on the basis of this year alone. Here's Celtic's signings since January of this year. So there you've got it. These are the players, Liam Shaw, and you've got Osese in there too, Lila Bada, Kyogo Furuhashi, Carl Starfelt, Chris Ayer, Shved's out, Vakun Bayo's away, Jack Henry, Scott Brown to Aberdeen, and Laxalt, Duffy, El Yunusi, and John Joe Kenny have gone in. And to be fair, I mean, apart from, I would say, El Yunusi, the rest of them were a disaster.
I mean, I would have kept El Yunusi, but I know he was, you know,
Too much money.
Too much money. But the rest of them out of the washing.
Yeah.
The thing about the signings as well, of course, is probably the 2 high-profile signings. The 2 boys at Bolton, the centre half, Starfelt and Furuhashi, will be the high-profile ones, but they'll be coming in. They've got, I mean, that old phrase about hitting the ground running. I mean, I think Starfelt played Saturday night, you know. I mean, straight out of isolation and into a Hearts stadium where Hearts will be sitting some blood. Always a difficult fixture, no matter, you know, how good a team and how good a coach you have. You mean, remember, I think it was Brendan Rodgers' league debut, and it required Scott Sinclair to come off the bench and score a late winner. So that's a tough place to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can give us your view on it as well here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. If you are interested in joining us over the course of the season, this is our first week back. We'll be looking at the start of the season in greater detail tomorrow on the programme, looking ahead to the 4 games on the Saturday and the Sunday. There's 2 matches as well. Why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? You can hit the bell and you'll get all the latest notifications when we've got lots of live pieces coming into the programme. We'll be out and about at the grounds. We'll be giving you the best that we possibly can coverage of Scottish football, and of course we'll be focusing on European football as well, if indeed we have any Scottish clubs left in it. But when they do, hopefully, fingers crossed, get to the group stages of their respective European competitions, we'll be covering that as well for you, looking at English football and European football. So it's all here on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. And just as a little footnote, we're just about to give this away tomorrow, Ruffy. When you subscribe, if you just put a little note, who do you think we've got as the name on the back of this retro Sampdoria shirt? It is the shirt that this player would have actually put on. Who do you think it is? The name on the back. Just jot it down on the live feed at the moment on the programme. We'll be picking out 1 lucky winner, and with a bit of luck, that retro top could be on its way to you. And next week, we'll be giving away your favourite team's top, because we'll be looking at all 12 teams in the Premiership, looking at how much it costs to buy a strip, and we'll be giving away the top of your favourite team. You could be lucky enough to win that. There's so many giveaways this season. We do hope that you stick with us with PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel and Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. All the lads are back and the lassies are back with us to give us their opinion on Scottish football, and you can offer it too. And if you download the PLZ Soccer app, there's a little section in it called Submission, and all you have to do there is record yourself and what you think about your team. And you could be on the programme as well in video, and if we use it, we'll be sending you out something nice as a gift and a thank you. So that's what's on offer. Hugh did mention there, Hearts against Celtic. We sent our reporter Gabriel Antoniazzi out to the Oriam today to catch up with Robbie Neilson and Gary Mackay-Steven.
Thanks, Peter, and good afternoon from a positive Hearts training camp here in Oriam in Edinburgh as they prepare for the start of the new season. Now, the club have been boosted today by the news that Everton midfielder Benny Banning-Ime is on the verge of joining the club on loan. Here's what manager Robbie Neilson had to say about the addition of the 22-year-old.
He brings energy to the midfield. He's obviously got really good stock. He's been at Everton, played I think 6 Premiership games down there, 12 games in all for a top team. So we know what he brings. He's energy, work ethic, moves the ball quickly, so it's an area we wanted to try and build on this season, and hopefully he'll do that for us.
So Banning-Ime could come in to start against Celtic on Saturday night, 8 o'clock kickoff. That is, of course, the opening fixture of the new season. Around 4,000 fans will be at Tynecastle to cheer the Jambos on, but players such as Gary Mackay-Steven won't be taking the hoops lightly, despite their poor result last night.
We know it's going to be a tough game. Still know a lot of the boys who were there, and I know the quality they have, so we won't underestimate them at all.
So a tough match to start the campaign for the Jambos. Of course, they won the Championship last season. They're now in the top flight, and I asked the manager what his target is for the season. He said it has to be the top 6.
Over this size, we've got to be aiming for that. We have to, so we're aiming for that, and then as the season goes, we aim higher as it goes along. So it's important that we have aspirations to get there, but we know it's easy to say it. You have to go and implement it.
So big aims for the campaign, and a win against Celtic on Saturday would be the perfect start.
Yeah, thanks, Gabriel. No surprise, Robbie Neilson. Top 6 is where Hearts want to be. Yeah, and I think with their budget, that's where they certainly should be aiming. I talked to the chief executive, Andrew McGrillen, this week, and he's really strong and positive about going forward. Interestingly, I think the club feel that they didn't maybe had the team for the Championship. The way they played football wasn't maybe sort of conducive to top success in the Championship, and that they'll do better, actually, funnily enough, in the Premier League, or the Premiership. So, yeah, big hopes at Hearts, and so there should be with the amount of money they've spent, and where they've come from a few years ago. There's just been a succession of, terrible errors, obviously that the farrago over the relegation, but they played into, they made a lot of their own problems themselves, Peter. We did a list once of that, where they did, but now going forward, Hearts are a huge club, we know that, we both lived and worked in Edinburgh at one time. I think it's, for the Premiership, I'm really excited about the Premiership, and I'm really excited to have Hearts back, because I think that galvanises Hibs that wee bit more. Yep. I'm pleased to have Dundee back, because I think that galvanises Dundee United as well. And see, when you've got, when you've got all these derbies and these wee niggles going on, that really excites you, all these little local derbies and tensions. You want teams, Ruffy, that are going to be able to take points off each other. I'm looking forward to seeing if Steven Gerrard, from the position now of champions, can take it on another level. We know that Celtic are going to drop into a playoff against Jablonec for the Europa League, but Rangers have got Malmo. His standing in the European games is really what helped him along the way to get to eventually the league champions. It'll be interesting to see the likes of Fashion Sakala coming in, if they can take it on another level.
Well, I think that'll be the objective. They sat around the board meeting at the beginning of the season. Obviously, the board asked the manager what are the objectives, and certainly that's what he'll be saying. Look how well I've done last year, and we're going to grow in that. They're positive. When they went to bring somebody in, they come in pretty quick. And they don't only come in pretty quick; they go into the team pretty quick. And they've got a pool of players there now that surpasses anything they had 3 years ago. So the Rangers support and the manager and the players will be confident getting into anything. You know, I agree with you. I think Aberdeen seems to be buzzing a wee bit just now. Hibs seem to be pretty positive, and where Celtic are at this precise moment in time, I know things can change in a month or two. If I was in Aberdeen's Hibs camp, I'd be looking at second place. You know, the way it is now. You know, you must be positive enough to say, look, we've brought in enough players and we feel as if we're strong enough to grab that second place. Whether it remains to be seen in a month's time how much Celtic improve. But at this moment in time, I think that's up for grabs.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment that Ruffy's made, because quite simply, no, I'm not knocking it, right? But if Aberdeen and Hibs are ahead of Celtic, Ange Postecoglou will hope that the quarantine is still not in place to get back to Australia, Hugh, because he'll be there before Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult for Postecoglou because nobody knows, you know, people say he doesn't know what he steps in, and nobody knows what they step into when they come to Celtic or Rangers. They don't. I mean, I was saying to Peter before the show, Ruffy, that, you know, I remember meeting Gordon Strachan in his first week at Celtic, and even he was going, I didn't realise it was, you know, so many press conferences, so much things to do. And he obviously was, you know, is a Scottish player and you know, had managed in the top division in England. You know, he didn't. So for, you know, you can have all the thoughts and strategies about how you're going to go about his management. And then again, as I say to you, all changes when the first punch, and he'll be sitting there now, and you'll be going, what is? You know, I talked to a guy in Australia, Peter, about, and he gave me a great reference with Postecoglou. He says, but he's a great second season manager. And I went, what do you mean by that? He says, it takes him a year to get his ideas fully instilled. Yeah. And I said to him, he'll not get, never mind I said a year, he'll get a week. You know, I mean, you know, so I think, I mean, what's got to happen with Celtic is that, I mean, let's hope for Angie's sake it does gel very, very quickly. But he's going to need a strong board and a strong chief executive around him to resist the pressure. Because look at the way we're talking about now. The first game of the league season has not started. We're talking about crisis, not finishing second. You know, he's been asked a question about catastrophe. I mean, this is all before a kick-off at Tynecastle.
It's been experience for him. You know, don't care where he's been. You know, when he walks in that door, you know, he'll now realise that what it's about to be part of a massive, massive club.
Absolutely.
I remember the first day I went to Celtic and I was going in the front door for my first day's training, and there was 200 supporters outside. And I'm going, this is just a training day.
Yeah.
And there's 200 supporters wanting to meet the players as they come in the front door.
Yeah.
He'll never experience anything that goes with being at Celtic Football
Absolutely.
Club.
But on the flip side, you know, all is good at Rangers. There's a real positivity. Celtic at the moment, as you say, one game away from a major crisis. In contrast, you've just highlighted Aberdeen and Hibs. Now they're going to the European games tonight. Two of them definitely going to go through unless there's a major catastrophe and Hibs have a full-scale punch-up and get 9 men sent off. They're going to beat Santa Coloma. They'll go through. Aberdeen, absolutely, you know, fantastic position, 5-1 up, and there's a real buzz about the place up there at Pittodrie.
Oh, there has to be. You know, a new manager, Brunigan up there, the young boys now saying they're getting the benefit of experienced players come in. And you look at his signings, I know some of them we don't really know, the boy from America and that, but they all look positive. And a 5-1 win, doesn't matter who you're beating 5-1, the whole place is absolutely buzzing. And that's good to take on to your first games of the season. So yeah, you know, everything's positive, and that's what you want to do. You want to go into games, not the way Celtic are now, but you want to go in positive and the players all buzzing and going, like, we're playing well, he's scoring goals. That can't be the case over at Parkhead now, but these two teams, when they come through these rounds, will be absolutely buzzing for the weekend.
Yeah, and of course Jack Ross, talking today ahead of the game against Santa Coloma tonight, mentioned the fact that he wants Hibs to get a wee run in Europe as well.
Being back on this stage is a big step forward for the club again. But I think I said this prior to the first leg, we don't want to just view it as almost tourist-like. We want to progress as far as we can in the competition, and it's not easy to do so in European football, particularly the number of rounds that you have to navigate your way through. We've made a good start in that respect. We want to finish that tomorrow evening and then look forward to the next challenge that may lie ahead.
Yeah, so there he is. He's fairly confident. He's got a new contract. Rijeka or Gijera lie in wait. Rijeka 2-0 up from the first leg.
Yep.
And Aberdeen know it's Austria Vienna or Breidablik. It's 1-1 in their second leg coming up tonight as well, Hugh.
Yeah, I think it might be a bit tougher for Aberdeen, but I think they're both ties that they can look at and say, yeah, but you know they're doable. You know, not beyond not beyond their capacity.
You mentioned hyperbole. Is that something that you would associate with Aberdeen? Because I've spoken to a few Aberdeen people. The Dons fans are getting excited.
No, I think that it's justifiable excitement. I really do. I think that I think it's, and it's no. I think it's no. No traducement of what Derek McInnes did there, but I think if you get a new manager in as well, the other era ends, and then people automatically look forward. I think Brown will be a major influence up there. I think if he brings that mentality into the dressing room, that winners bring into dressing rooms. I think Aberdeen could be looking at a really good season. I think it's a really smart move by Glass to bring that in, because some managers would, I know he's a pal of Stevens, but I think some managers would say, is that maybe too big a character in the dressing room for me? Have I just signed my successor? That kind of thing. But I think he knows the importance of having somebody like that in the dressing room. I'm really excited about this season, Peter, I think, because as you go right down the leagues, I think every team has got a real story. And I'm not just talking about the Premiership, I'm going into the Championship and further down. There's a story for every team at the moment. There's a goal for every team. I know that talking to certain chief executives and chairmen, the take-up of tickets has been astonishingly good as well. Clubs are very pleased at that. Yeah,
well, I think people have been locked up that long, Ruffy. They just want out. It's as simple as that. And of course, as Hugh mentioned there, I wonder if you agreed concerning your own side. Jim Goodwin was talking today, and he reckons, like Hugh, that this division, the Premiership this season, is the toughest one in many a year.
The stature of the clubs now that are in it. Two big Dundee clubs, the two big Edinburgh clubs, two Glasgow clubs. Obviously Aberdeen are there. So yeah, I think from a sponsor's point of view, and I think they'll be delighted with that, because they've got a number of derby games to look forward to. But I think look at the history of all those clubs that I've mentioned. They really are big clubs.
I agree with him. I think it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think the majority of the other clubs that we're now talking about have upped their game. We played St Mirren at the weekend, and I was looking at their 11 and their squad, and I'm going, this is a pretty, strong squad that he's amassed there. So they've obviously identified, they already said they wanted to be a top six last year. I think they're really going for it. They've got Main in there. They've got the wee boy McGrath. I don't know if he'll be there for a lot long, but they've got a lot of experience.
Brophy up front.
Brophy, they got Shaughnessy at the back, and the boy Booth at the back as well. And
Tate didn't play in Saturday. He's a good player.
I know. And you look at their squad, and I think that's the same with, like we spoke about Hearts there. They know they have to improve what they've got. And Dundee United, Charlie Mulgrew, that kind of calibre of player. So I think everybody has upped their game. Obviously a lot of the clubs have got more finance than others, but I think there's going to be a really good season.
Yeah, and of course, with players coming in, we always like to see new players that will light up the division. We're going to lose the odd one or two.
Absolutely.
But I think, Hugh, I'd like to see Scottish clubs adopt the same policy of Hibs. I mean, Leeds United have been sniffing around Josh Doig, and they're saying, listen, you can, bump your gums all you want, and if you stump up 5 million, you can have them.
Well, this is the thing, and it was also always a big bugbear with Celtic and Celtic fans about, okay, you sell players, but look what you sell them for. And Kieran Tierney has been dogged by injuries since he went to Arsenal. We know that. But Kieran Tierney in his day, half the amount of money that Man United played for Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah.
At the same time, you go, no, that isn't. Virgil van Dijk, sold for the equivalent of a make-peace squad right back. If you're selling now, you've got to say to him, listen, This is our strategy. This is this is what has come out of this league.
Yeah.
Every club should have it. They should have a list of all the players who've been sold and what they went on to do. John McGinn being another one. See, this is what we produce in this league, you know, and the prices will have to go up because you're not taking a punt on players.
No, I was going to ask you guys, especially Ruffy. You know, the SPFL have also been trying to promote the game and trying to get it out to as many people as possible. I know they've done a 4-year deal with CBS Sports. You know, and they can cover Scottish football as well. That'll be interesting, if only for the fact, Ruffy, that it'll give the Americans en masse the chance to see some of the lunacy that is involved in our country. I mean, I know they've got lunacy, but boy, we're up there with them. We could be a state of America when you consider what's gone on over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I think we sometimes we knock the game too much, but I mean, a lot of games last year were great to watch, and it doesn't matter where you are. There are some games that are absolute stinkers, but you know, I think we've got to sell our game, the brand.
Yeah.
You know, and I think obviously with the pandemic, every club's got to start thinking about giving the supporter something back. I mean,
well, I went to my first game as a supporter since the pandemic. Apart from I went to the Ukraine-Sweden game, but I mean, as a Scottish football fan, and I went to Fourth Bank, Stirling Albion last week, you know, and Stirling Albion v Peterhead, and it was a great day. You know, one of the stands was full, and see the punters coming back. There was a great feeling of it. And you're watching it and see what we've got in Scottish football, Peter, and you'll know this as well. And we've got a real story. You're sitting there and two teams that are not at the highest level in Scotland, but you're looking about and there's legends. You know, Jim McInally, a man that's played in a European Cup final, and there's players running about. Derek Lyle came on as a sub.
Yep,
Peter,
with his white teeth.
Yes.
And did he have a tan?
Oh, he's all Derek's always got a tan every time I run into him.
It was just, and funnily enough, a wee player came on. The last time we saw him, Peter, was at the Works Night Out.
Oh, Chris?
No, Jack Leach, Scottish Leach.
yeah.
But it was just a great day to go out and enjoy the football again. I'm going to go to a game every Saturday. Yeah,
I think the demand. Listen, it'll be through the roof for Rangers. They're the champions. Obviously, they want to see Steven Gerrard's men have a long run in Europe as well. So the demand there will be incredible. I think Ange Postecoglou's got his work cut out. We've mentioned Aberdeen and Hibs. But it's great to see Dundee. I mean, Charlie will be back with us on Friday on the show. It's great to see Dundee there. I've always associated Dundee and, may I add, Partick Thistle as a Premier League club.
Yeah, well, no disrespect to Hamilton or Kilmarnock, but we always say what do teams bring to a league.
Yeah.
And now we've got Hearts in there, and I have to say that they bring a lot more to the league than what Hamilton do. Yeah. No disrespect to that Hamilton supporters or anything. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
You know, where would you rather go and play, Tynecastle or Hamilton or Kilmarnock? You know, and they're now in our division. So from that aspect, the big league has improved, and it will improve. But I always think Dundee are possibly a bigger team than Dundee United if they're playing well.
Yeah.
The Dundee support, you could get 10, 12,000 in Dens Park easily. You know, and a good Dundee side. So that derby itself is going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing actually when you look at there are two generations of Dundee fans that I speak to. One of them, you know, can rhyme off the 61, 62 Dundee side with all those fabulous Charlie Cook, Alan Gilzine, Ian Ure, and then there's another generation. You say to them, "What's the best Dundee side?" and they'll go Fabian Caballero, Juan Sara, Ravanelli, Canigia, you know, Craig Worley. Well, maybe Canigia. I'm only winding you up, Butler, if you're listening. But nevertheless, you know, Dundee, I agree with you, Raphael, big side. Curiously enough, if Dundee are a big side, let's see where you've got them in your 1 to 12. Talk us through your 1 to 12, Hugh.
My 1 to 12, well, the first three are pretty straightforward, I think.
Rangers to win the league?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see, you know, looking forensically at what's going on, you can go any other way.
Yep.
I think Celtic, even in the crisis, will be too strong to finish anywhere else lower than second. Aberdeen, I think it's interesting with as we talked earlier, Scott Brown, Stephen Glass. I think Hibs are very stable at the moment. I think the only question mark about Hearts is coming up a division, but I think they'll adapt. Now, the wee surprise might be St Mirren at 6.
Yeah, well, St Johnstone, the double winners, you've got them in the bottom half.
Yeah, and I think St Mirren, and I think St Mirren have got a really good manager. I looked at their squad, and I think they've got a strong squad. They were unlucky just to miss into the top 6. I just think Callum might find it more difficult to go again, particularly when teams know what they're about.
I'm just looking there, Hugh. Your bottom 3 is the exact same as mine.
Yeah.
Because I think, if anything, the reason why I think Ross County will escape any problems is because I think they've managed to get a manager who's bigger than they could ever wish for.
Yeah, I agree.
think Malky Mackay's a good manager.
See, Malky Mackay had the situation where he was going to be a Dundee United manager, right? And then they had the outpouring and the protests about him.
Yeah.
Because of the texts, and we know all that. But they've got a manager. Ross County have got a good man. Not only got a good manager, but Ross County are all about academy, developing players and all this. And Mackay's as good as it gets at that. I mean, he's got all that at their fingertips. And the other thing that they've got as well that will keep them out of trouble, and what kept them out of trouble last year is, if push comes to shove, and it will come to shove, Roy McGregor will say,
here's somebody.
I mean, get a couple of guys on loan to the end of the season. I mean, get it sent on. So that's it.
So we're tipping Livingston and Motherwell to be battling it out of the bottom end.
I think Motherwell's been a general decline. And I think Robinson saw it coming as well. I don't think you can buck the trend too much. I think they'll be down there. And Livingston, I put down there for the same reason I put Hamilton down there, lowest budget.
Yep, okay. You can agree or disagree, it's up to you. Still time to press the subscribe button, and of course don't forget you can hit the bell and you'll get all the notifications on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, all the live features that we're going to bring you this season. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show. If you can't catch it live at 4 o'clock every day, Monday to Friday, you certainly can watch it at your leisure. Even Ruffy knows how to work his Sky button and download the app. You can get to the app's YouTube, PLZ Soccer in, and you're off and running. And also over and above that, we'll have some very special one-to-ones lined up for you this season as well, that hopefully, if you like your football and you like listening to the stories of managers and players from years gone by, and some up-to-date players too, we hope we're going to provide you with quite a lot of fun, great insights, some telling, some really good stories to tell as well, and we'll be giving away more than a few fantastic prizes. So don't forget to join us for all of that. And if you want to win this retro Sampdoria top, there's a name on the back of it. There is a number on it too, but if you can tell us the name on the back of it, hit the subscribe button, then just post your message below tonight's live programme, and we're going to pick out one lucky winner and we'll send that off to you. So good luck with that. Just before we go, you know, every now and then there's an anniversary that comes up, Ruffy, that just sticks in my mind. When I was the head of sport at Radio Clyde, I became friends with Paul McGrillen. I got him on the show. Paul was a great player, a great goal scorer, you know, Falkirk and Motherwell and numerous other clubs. He came on the show for a full season with us, loved it, and I was looking forward to you know, having him back on the next season. He was a good pundit, good chat, and knowing Mowgli as I did, he was a great laugh. He's a really bubbly character. And then sadly took his own life, and you know, left everybody with this huge void. It was such a tragedy. 12 years have now passed. Today is the very day when we lost Paul McGrillen, and I still look back with great sadness at losing him.
Yeah, I think if you listen to any of the boys of that era in the Motherwell side, they've got nothing but praise, not only as a footballer but as a person. He seemed to be one of these guys that come into the dressing room and lights the whole place up. And he was a fantastic footballer as well. I think if you ask any centre-half, you know, I mean, quality centre-halves, who would you not want to be playing up against? It'd be him. Yeah. He was always in a bit and causing problems. Yeah. So as far as Motherwell's concerned and any other teams that he played for, I'm sure he'll be sadly missed.
Yeah, absolutely. And perhaps a lesson that we see on all too many occasions now, Hugh, is, you know, people with a mental health issue, you always want to try and avoid the ultimate tragedy, and you just wish you were there to intervene at some point. in some way that would have stopped a tragedy. Like for me, Paul McGrillen, you wish you were there to maybe see those signs, but sometimes there's no signs, Hugh.
Well, this is the terrible thing. People sometimes living close to those that take their lives, you just say, never saw anything, nothing at all, nothing visible. And I think the message, now is that there's so many. There's so many good agencies now that offer help, breathing space, Samaritans, whatever. There's a great football charity, Time to Tackle, with our friend Aaron Conley run it as well. That there is help out there, and there is ability to go and speak to people, and sometimes just talking about the problem gets you towards the help. And there is help out there. This is not, depression and anxiety is not something that you have to live with all your life. It's something that you can come through.
Well, it's fantastic now that there's an awareness out there. I played the game for 20 years, and there must have been people in the dressing room that I was in going through a mental health problem, but nobody would ever, twig to it. Nobody would ever say, "You okay? Is everything okay with you?" And
well, you sat next to it.
You just went out and played,
exactly.
and you went away from the football. And whatever happened in your other life, nobody knew or nobody put their finger on it, and tragically these things happen. So it's good now that there is an awareness at the clubs for somebody who can notice that a player's maybe going through a bad time and pulling them aside and saying, "Look, is there something else happening apart from the football?" Yeah,
absolutely. We need to stay on top of it. And listen, 12 years, I always remember the wee man. He was a great lad, a great player, and sadly missed, Paul McGrillen. Just before we go, let me give you the Aberdeen side for the game against BK Hacken. Lewis, McCrory, Considine, Brown, Ramirez, Hedges, Jett, Ojo, Hayes, Ferguson and Ramsey. I love that. I love that middle four that I've just mentioned. Ramirez, Hedges, Jett and Ojo. Gone are the days of Miller, McLeish and McMaster and Rooney. But nevertheless, the one great thing about this side as well is they produced a really good European performance that I'm sure many of the legends would have been proud of. Let's hope that they actually make sure that they finish off the job against BK Hacken. Good luck to Aberdeen. And then as far as Hibs are concerned, Matt Macy, McGinn, Porteous, Hanlon, Doig, Gogic, McGuinness, Doyle, Hayes, Campbell, Boyle and Nisbet is the starting 11 for their match against Santa Coloma tomorrow. Hopefully we're talking about two teams through into the next phase of the Conference League in the European competition as well. But thanks to Hugh. He'll be with us next week again, looking back on what happened over the weekend and discussing all the red hot issues. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and you can also download the PLZ Soccer app. We'd love for you to record a message in our submission section. Tell us what you think of your team, where they're going to finish. If we feature it on the show, then we'll be sending you out something special as well. So with all this football chat, don't forget to subscribe and join the football family. From myself, Peter Martin, Hugh McDonald and Alan Ruff, thanks for watching.